Hello, I wanted to talk about another game, and this time it's Baldur's Gate 3. A game that I should love, but ended up almost hating. And I'm still not sure how I ended up at this point. There will be spoilers ahead, so if you don't want that, you have been warned. Baldur's Gate 3 is a RPG, based on Dungeons & Dragons, and made by Larian Studios. It has turn-based tactical fights. You can either create a character yourself or use one of the pre-created ones. And you will meet these pre-created characters in the game, since you can hire them as party members. And they all have their own quest lines and backstories. The game studio Larian gave us Divinity Original Sin, Part 1 and 2, and Baldur's Gate 3 is very similar to these two games. These games just didn't have the Dungeons & Dragons background. I personally loved the first one, and I liked the second one, although that's where the pre-made characters with their own storylines started, and I really couldn't connect to any of them but one, who to this day had one of the most satisfying conclusions of a questline ever.
Dark, come to me, the night is long. Sing for me, I'll sing along. Sing for me, oh sing for me. Sway with me, we'll make them scream. Dance with me, we'll make them bleed. Sing for me, I'll sing along. Sing for me, oh sing for me.
By all accounts, I really should love this game, but there have been so many frustrating moments that the whole experience turned sour at some point. This video is more or less a chance for me to sort things out, so let's go into some of the points. I try to structure this, but some things are intertwined and it won't be that clean. Number 1. The game feels mean-spirited, like it wants to constantly punish you. It's mostly a feeling. In fights, you constantly miss important hits, get the worst crits in return from opponents who somehow keep standing around with 1-2 health. The next ambush is just around the corner, and if you dare to talk to the wrong person, you are in the middle of a boss fight in no time. In Act 2, you meet a priestess in the second floor and learn the person is the one who keeps up the shield that keeps the place and the people in it together. The dialogue triggers a medium boss fight with an intruder, and ready or not, you got to do that now. Furthermore, you need to be careful to not lose the NPC you just talked to, because remember, there is this shield and you don't want to have that going down, or you have to fight with everyone in this place afterwards, since all the friendly people and future allies turn hostile. Somebody told me of this experience, and that makes this completely insane to be just dropped upon you, and I was lucky to dodge that bullet. This game has countless situations like that, where you are in the middle of hell after just exploring or trying to have an innocent conversation. Keep in mind, we are working with a Dungeons & Dragons magic system in the background, and you need a long rest to get your spell slots back. So getting pushed into something by accident might be rather unfavorable for you, because your spell slots might be depleted. Some dialogues also need you to roll the dice to see if you can successfully persuade or intimidate or whatever your dialogue partner. And sometimes the game asks you for something reasonable, sometimes it's some almost impossible roll and you never even get a hint of what it will be this time. Number 2. All the bugs. Normally I don't even talk about bugs, since you have to expect some of them, and they are getting addressed in the next patch eventually. So no big deal. The ones in Baldur's Gate 3 drove me nuts. Because at more than one occasion, I couldn't complete a quest, and not just one of the smaller side quests, but in fact, bigger companion quests. I don't know if that should be counted as a bug, but using the non-lethal way of defeating someone seems to be almost completely useless. It really only helped once, when I was visiting the factory for the steel watch. Act 3. I found that one guy who told me they would all be forced to work here and I should raid the prison to help them. So confused as I was, because this is another of these where do I have to go games, I took the next door, was in the hell of a fight, killed the bad guys, knocked out the forced slaves and left. When I got back after the prison visit, everyone in those halls were dead. Great. All my hard work nullified. Also, I knocked out the Archduke in the throne room, and while he was lying around with a knocked out status, he still was declared dead by the game. Thanks a lot, Larian. Number 3. Inconsistencies and trying to be something you never be. A pen and paper experience. This one is a little complicated. First off, when I visited the last light in Act 2, I did everything I could and successfully entered the compound without talking about the artifact in my bags. Right after the before-mentioned fight with that surprise boss, the same character that interrogated me at the entrance, who I remind you didn't get any information about the artifact, mentions the artifact in her next line of dialogue. Another fine example is the Underduke in Baldur's Gate, who I talked to. She knew me, big hero, slayer of yada yada yada. I needed to bring another character for a companion quest to talk to her, so I ported to my camp, switched, ported back, and not only did the game handle this as if I was there for the first time, she didn't even know who I was. You know, the big hero, slayer of yada yada. Especially in Act 3 this seems to be a real problem. Another thing, a video game can't be a pen and paper game. Everybody knows this, it's not possible. Certain situations just wouldn't happen at a Dungeons and Dragons table since players would and could do something about it. A video game needs that pre-programmed, and at some point certain things will just not be addressed. That's just how it is. Like this girl. Found her at the start of Act 3. Talked a little with her and then had to find a way into the city, which was hard, and as a side note, I also fought at least 3 groups of shapeshifters. So I was really surprised to find this girl waiting for me in my room in the inn. Inside the city. As a cleric, pushing a little girl out of the door seemed wrong, but in the pen and paper session I would at least have probed a little more. The game doesn't see it that way, and that's just one example of many where I wished my characters could still have some common sense. I mean, I fought shapeshifters, and this girl shouldn't have been able to get here. So, what's up with that? Number 4. Most stuff is depressing and most of these pre-made characters are either unlikable or forgettable, with the sole exception of Carla. The world is just so mean-spirited, you find letters of little children and piles of skulls in which they hope to see their mother again, since they lost them on some trip. There's this girl Arabella, who you saved from being fed to a snake in Act 1, hopefully, and now she got separated from her parents in Act 2 and you try to help find them. But you only find 2 corpses, so the rest of the quest is you telling the little girl her parents died. Or like Larian calls it, fun. There's another little boy standing above the corpses of his parents in Act 3, they got mugged. I could go on, but you get the message. This game seems to have been programmed by a bunch of sadists. Sadists that don't like children. I'm close to the end and I'm going to rip this game off my computer afterwards. In between anger over those bad dice fights and other roles and the more depressing aspects of the game, I just wasn't happy with the game experience. This is in no way a bad game. Production value, main story, everything is rather good. But overall, it never felt good for me. So that's all for now. Tell me what you thought about Baldur's Gate 3. Did you enjoy the story? Did you enjoy all the punished children? Make a comment.
I shouldn't have run away. I'm sorry.